Coyote Overland. On this episode, I want to do something a little bit different. I wanted to talk about overlanding, preparation, vehicles, what you shouldn't do, and the basics. What are some basics that we can do? We started a couple years ago and really kind of slowly got into it as the time went on. We got more and more comfortable on being farther and farther away from home. The more we realized the gear we needed, the little things like headlamps, okay. First thing I want to talk about is the vehicle, the platform, the rig. Now, this is very dependent on what you are going to do or your needs. How much room do you need? Do you have a family? Are you taking your family with you, or is it just you? You don't have to have a big full-size truck. You don't have to go full crazy on a $40,000 or $80,000 vehicle plus all the equipment you're going to dump into it. You don't have to do that. It's all about enjoying the recreation, going out and exploring. Now, that being said, a few bare minimums I would say is at least be four-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Four-low is optional, but we use it quite often in some of the stuff we get into. Now, there is a variety of vehicles. I mean, you can go with a 4Runner, or if you like pickups, you can go with a Toyota Tacoma or a Nissan Frontier or anything. I mean, you can turn anything basically into a self-sufficient rig. It just depends on your budget and what you want to do with it. We all pretty much have mid-size SUVs. Connor, Mitch's best friend, he runs a Subaru. I have talked to several Subaru owners. They do just fine. And we have actually put that to the test. Didn't get on video, and I wish we would have, but we have taken a Subaru through some pretty gnarly stuff that I don't think we should have ever done it, but it surprisingly did very well. So, platform, your rig, it's all going to be based on you, what your needs are. It comes down to that simple research. If you don't want to fab stuff and you want to be able to just click buy now and be able to get it thrown on simple, do your research on the type of rig you're thinking. Some are more in depth than others. Some are trial and error. Some are full-blown kits where you just basically bolt it on, you're good to go. Now, in my case personally, I have a very unique rig. A lot of it was custom, a lot of it was trial and error, and a lot of it you can't get without building something with your own hands. My roof rack I built completely by myself. First time fabbing anything, turned out pretty good. So there's another thing, resources. What's the ability to get the stuff that you want done to that vehicle that you're potentially looking at? Fuel economy for some is a must. I wish I would have really played that in a factor when I chose mine. That is not the case being for me. I do not get very good fuel mileage at all, so it's every time we're able to fill up, we fill up. There has been times where my extra fuel on the rack has saved me from being stranded. So that's another thing to think about, fuel. How much fuel you want to be able to carry too. That's important. These are all things that you will figure out eventually, but I'm trying to be here to help in situations to where if you're lost and you don't know what to do, don't know what to get, what's the essentials, that's what I'm making this video for, is to go over that. It's been a lot of trial and error, so that's why I'm here today. My buddy today gave me an idea. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he messaged me today and was like, "Hey, I'm building my first rig. What are some essentials?" So I said, "Hey, that might be a good video option right there. Let's try to put something together and help some fellow people out. Whether you're new, you've been doing this for years, what have you. It's very up to you and what you want to do. If you want to go to basic campgrounds, cool. If you want to go crazy and go miles upon miles upon miles outside of civilization, awesome. You'll see some of the most beautiful views you've ever seen. But it's all going to depend on what you want. Now, if you have questions, feel free to comment. I will get back to you as soon as I can. It goes for this whole video, so got that covered. Next on the list, I want to talk about preparation. All our trips, we prepare about a week in advance. Now, if it's going to be a very long trip, we start preparing, could be several months before. Typically, a couple times a year, we go out and we're off grid for upwards of 4 to 5 days. We're planning on a pretty extensive trip this summer, maybe next summer, going from us, we're here where we live now, which is in Oregon, to travel to Colorado. So there's going to be a lot of preparation on that. When I talk about preparation, I want to talk about mapping, safety concerns, what's the possibility of running into certain situations. Every time we go on something that's a little bit more extravagant than just a weekend trip, we get together, we get our mapping systems out. We use Gaia GPS, really nice software. I like it the best so far out of all the ones I've used. It allows us to really in-depth go over our route and plan backup routes if for some reason we can't get through, as in there's a gate there or too many trees down. It just varies. So when I talk about preparation, it's huge. You can never prepare for enough stuff. We usually start out, okay, this is where we want to go. What direction do we want to go? North, south, east, west? Where do we want to go? Where do we want to end up? And then we start looking on back roads and Forest Service roads and how can we get to this spot, and pre-plan stopping destinations for possible camp spots. They're never 100% guaranteed to turn out very well, so we try to back up plan for that too. Now, not only does it come to mapping, it comes to safety and things and gear, what we have, what we need to get, what kind of food we're going to have, who's going to carry what, who's carrying the drinks, who's carrying the frozen foods. We typically run in a pretty decent sized group, like 4 rigs, 4, sometimes 5. So a couple of us have fridges in our cars, a couple of us carry coolers. It all varies, but we plan everything together. We work together as a team. Okay, you're going to carry drinks, you're going to carry frozen food, you got this, you got that. Now when it's just by yourself, it's kind of a little bit more easy. You can kind of plan all that with yourself, but when you start involving a bigger group and everyone pitches in for everything, it's a little bit more of a headache, but it's kind of nice at the same time, because you are not loading down your vehicle so much. You can kind of spread everything out between everyone's rig. That's been pretty nice when we travel in larger groups. That's another thing. We always let people know general areas of where we're going, and roughly check-in times or check-in points. Now, if we know we're not going to have any service for a couple days, we try to plan, okay, well, we plan on being back in a town around this time. You know, you should hear from us around this time. If you don't hear from us by this time, start to get worried. You know, there's a lot of safety precautions in planning bigger, extensive trips, especially places we've never been before. We don't know what we're going to run across. That's a pretty big deal. We try to keep everyone safe at all times. We've got young kids. They love doing this stuff with us, but we are always making sure that everybody's safe at all in any given time. That's our number one priority. We all have med kits. That's another thing to consider. You know, just preparation, med kits, water, food, fuel, batteries for flashlights. You know, is all your stuff charged. You're doing camera gear. Is all your gear charged? Is your headlights or headlamps charged? Is, you know, just there's a lot to it, and it's fun. It's definitely rewarding, but don't try not to be at a in such a rush to where you forget something that's could be a make or break trip. That's, you know, think of blankets. What's the weather going to be like? You know, keep checking the weather on a daily basis before you head out. Okay, it's supposed to be, you know, this cold or this warm. Should we take extra blankets? Well, if it's a question, yeah, probably should take extra blankets. You know, everything. Pillows. Do you have a fire extinguisher? If you're in the middle of summer up in the forest somewhere and the fire breaks out, you know, do you have a way? Do you have an escape route? You know, just simple things like that will save your life. Now, wintertime, as it's wintertime right now, do you have ways to stay warm? Do you have a fire starter? Do you have dry wood to build a fire? You got to think of all these different scenarios and weather and different factors. And okay, so we know we're going here. The weather's going to be here, or this. You know, it's supposed to be cold at night but warm during the day. You know, pack some warm clothes for night. Pack some different clothes for during the day. And bring extra socks. It's really, to me, it's fun planning this stuff because you gotta take on so much consideration on everything that we're doing. You know, another thing when it comes to preparing is look over your vehicle every time before you head out. You know, check oil levels, check, you know, water levels, you know, check your bushings. Do as much as you can to make sure that that rig will not leave you stranded somewhere with no service and no way to get a hold of nobody. That's the worst case scenario. We had an incident last year. Thankfully, we were pretty close. My wife's rig blew a coil pack on the way up to the mountain. Luckily, we were able to limp it home. It was a long drive home at 20 miles an hour, but we were able to get it home. And then we fixed it the next morning and turned around and headed back out. You know, there's stuff that's unpredictable, and then there's stuff that you can predict. So just keep those in mind. Now that we got those, I want to talk a little bit about gear. So when we first started, we didn't have a tent. We didn't have a lot of the gear we have currently. Our first big trip, we basically slept in the car. Now, that's opinion. Whether you want to use a rooftop tent, or you want to use a ground tent, or you want to sleep in your car. It's all up to you. We moved on to rooftop tents. It's they're actually pretty nice. They're quick setup, quick tear down. The hard shells are a lot quicker. We opted for soft shells. They're a little bit cheaper, a little bit more roomy. I personally like them. Hard shell I do want to get eventually, but I have to rearrange my roof rack and do some other things before I were to get one of those. Sleeping bags, you know, it comes down to preparation again. What kind of weather you're going to be in. Are you going to be in heat or hot? Are you going to be in cold? What kind of degree sleeping bag? Do you need a heater? We were originally using one of those buddy heaters. I didn't like them very well. They produced a lot of condensation, which kind of isn't fun because you wake up and you're kind of wet. We recently just purchased a portable diesel heater, and let me tell you, that's the way to go. It's a dry heat, keeps your tent dry. There's no condensation. For the amount of money you spend on them, it's worth it. We this last weekend we're about 25-degree weather, and it was about 77 probably in the tent. Kept us nice and toasty. It was nice. Definitely recommend one of those if you're gonna do cold weather. Clothing, you know, that's another thing. Think about clothes, what you're gonna wear, what kind of weather you're getting. Preparation, you know, it's all comes to the first steps of preparation of what you're gonna want to bring and what you need and what you don't need. That being said, I think I covered most of what I wanted to talk about today. I'm going to do a walk around video of my rig, hopefully within the next week, and put a video together so you guys can get some ideas on how to set up your rig. I will show you what I've done, my trials, my errors, and kind of go over some stuff and gear, and just gonna wait for the weather to get a little bit nicer out. It's kind of nasty right now, so I believe we're supposed to have a couple of nice days coming up, so I'll get outside and do a video of a walk around and kind of let you guys see what we go through and what our rigs are set up like, and maybe that will help you get an idea of what you can go forward to and figure it out. If you have any questions, leave some comments. If you thought this was helpful in any way, you know, like, share, you know, subscribe. I would appreciate it. Have a good one, guys. Thanks.